For full internet to the country, the court ruled that the government's shutdown of the internet is illegal because the Minister of State for Security, who ordered the internet closure, does not have the powers to issue such a directive. The court said only President Emmerson Mnangagwa has the authority to make such an order. Zimbabwe's government closed the internet for much of last week, partially restoring internet but keeping a blackout on social media this weekend. We're joined now in our studio by a Zimbabwean national living in South Africa, Mpiwa Mangwiro Sanga, who is also a peace and conflict specialist. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you, and good evening to you too.
I'd like to start first with the court order saying that Zimbabwe must restore full internet, but it does specifically say that President Mnangagwa enjoys the authority to shut it down. What do you believe would be his next move? Would he be in line with the decision that has been made by his communications minister, or would he take this opportunity now to shut it down?
Okay, first let me start by saying that it is quite a relief to realize that finally justice has taken its course and that the Constitution, the High Court has made that decision, which applications were made last week, so it has almost taken a whole week for this decision to come. But however, it's still a good thing that people's freedom of expression has finally been restored. I think there are many options that certainly President Mnangagwa has at his disposal. Yes, he has the power. He's the one who has the power to issue such a directive. So at this moment, with the decision that the High Court has made, the government has the option of appealing against that decision at the Supreme Court if they can show or produce evidence that that directive was actually given by the president to the minister, who then called for the internet to be shut down. Or alternatively, the president can then also choose to abide by the decision of the High Court, which I think in this instance would be the most ideal decision to make, because fundamental freedoms were being compromised when the internet was shut down and when there was a blackout, and that needs to be respected.
The government was arguing, though, that the protesters were using social media to agitate for violence, to agitate in threatening the state's right to at least hold people who are violent accountable, to prevent them from doing so. What is your views on that?
Well, what I would say is freedom of expression is something that is important. And while there may have been people who could have sent messages, but the point is not everyone was calling for violence. Not everyone was inciting people to resort to violent means. And in fact, social media was actually playing an important role, because people were able to communicate some of the legitimate concerns that they have and why they wanted to take to the streets. So I think to then blanket the whole nation and say that the whole nation will be shut down because of interpretations that some people's social media communication was inciting violence is violating the rights of all other citizens.
There's no doubt that Zimbabwe is unstable at the moment, but listening to the leader of MDCT Youth suggesting that perhaps President Mnangagwa is going back to the country to deal with what seems to be a power vacuum or instability within his own party. What is your point of view of what the real source of the current instability is? Is it purely economic, or is it possible that there are political machinations in the background that are leading to this?
I think for starters, we have to acknowledge the fact that, like you are saying, the economic situation in Zimbabwe has really reached a tipping point. So to start from there, to say the citizens have a legitimate concern. The economic situation is such that the poor are getting poorer and they cannot even afford or sustain their livelihoods. So that is where the protest is coming from. And whether President Mnangagwa is going back because of an alleged power vacuum, or whether it is out of genuine concern for the economic challenges that the country is facing, I think it is important that he made this decision. It was a very necessary decision that he was supposed to make.
Some were curious about his wording, that he said he's going back because of the economic situation, and not acknowledging, as they would say, the political meltdown, meaning that people have not only called into question his legitimacy, but the fact that he could deliver at all to the people of Zimbabwe what he promised to them. Your thoughts on that? Again, I go back to, is it purely economic or are there political ramifications?
I think at this moment, we would wait to see how he engages with the situation, to see what some of the... For me, I would rather choose to say, let us deal with the situation that affects the majority of the citizens. And the issue is, we know that there has been even social structures that enable people to have a decent living have been eroded. So at this point, what is fundamental is that the president goes to deal with these issues, whether there are political ramifications that arise out of that. But let us first acknowledge the important, that it is important for him that as a president who made certain commitments during his electoral campaign.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. That is the Zimbabwean national living in South Africa.